Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're exploring a story that is both unexpected and quietly compelling. Prince and the hidden connections with kindred spirits in the music world. The legendary artist was not only celebrated for his extraordinary genius, but also known for guarding his inner life with almost absolute silence. Yet beyond the bright lights and unforgettable performances, there are subtle echoes of private bonds with fellow creatives, stories that were never meant for headlines and rarely spoken aloud. So who were these figures? And why did these chapters remain carefully sealed in the shadows? Let's step into this intriguing journey together, right now. For Prince, sex wasn't just about pleasure, it was a spiritual experience, something sacred and God-given. He was a symbol of both freedom and deep inner conflict. And he shared love with 5 well-known men. But none of those relationships were ever made public, not out of shame, but because the world simply wasn't ready to accept those who didn't fit the norm. No photos, no statements, just lingering glances, quiet nights, and songs layered with hidden meaning. Yet those who worked inside the Los Angeles studios in 2006 remember it differently. A brief meeting, seemingly accidental, yet one whose echo stretched far beyond that single day. Truthfully, nothing was ever certain, the producer who witnessed it later recalled, but the air in the room changed as if 2 distant storms approached from opposite horizons, never colliding, yet somehow bringing everything to a sudden pause. Prince was almost like a figure from another realm, carrying mystery as naturally as a second skin. Rufus, younger and different in his own quiet way, was still searching for his place in a world that hesitated to welcome those brave enough to live honestly. They were not simple souls to approach, yet that very distance created a rare kind of understanding between them. The story of that studio day has never been fully told. Prince arrived for a few hours, listened in silence to Rufus's demo, offered only a handful of words, and then disappeared. But that brief meeting left Rufus with an unfamiliar feeling, as if, for the first time, he had been truly seen, not evaluated, not corrected, but deeply understood. Many admirers still ask why, if such mutual respect and quiet understanding truly existed, there was never a single collaboration. Why no shared tracks? No fusion of funk and classical emotion, only rumors drifting in the background. That question has never found an answer. Prince was famous for resisting expectation, for allowing many ideas to live only within himself and a chosen few. Perhaps he felt that whatever passed between them was meant to belong only to that instant in time, complete as it was, needing nothing further to exist. Perhaps Prince recognized a mirror of himself in Rufus, too sincere, too exposed, and chose not to draw him into the labyrinth of his own complicated world. Rufus, for his part, once came close to writing a song titled Little Prince, a piece meant to hold both deep admiration and intensely personal feeling. Though they never worked side by side, the quiet tension between them seemed to glow beneath the surface, leaving a lasting impression on those who sensed the unspoken stories hidden within their singular presence. He let it go for a single reason. I was afraid it would be misunderstood, and I couldn't carry that anymore. No one asked him to explain further, but those who knew Rufus's private battles, the tension between who he truly was and who the world expected him to be, understood at once. There were certain things he chose to protect, not from embarrassment, but from exposure, because once spoken aloud, they would never remain as beautiful as they had been inside his heart. One reason the quiet rumors surrounding Prince and Rufus have never faded lies in the delicate traces threaded through their music. Rufus's lingering low tones, his gentle, breakable vibrato reaching toward something just beyond grasp, seemed to mirror the dark glow of Prince's purple funk. Both were creators unafraid to place vulnerability at the very center of their art. Neither of them chased sympathy, nor did they hide behind an image of strength they did not feel. Perhaps that is why their connection, if it ever truly existed, was so difficult to describe. Neither belonged to a world that needed names to sell stories or labels to command attention. They required no definitions, no declarations. Sometimes, a single moment of shared silence, a brief meeting of eyes, was enough to carry a feeling across many years. When Prince passed away, Rufus was among the few younger artists who chose to remain completely quiet. No public letters, no tribute recordings, no visible acts of mourning. Nearly a year later, during a small and intimate concert in Vienna, he finally broke that silence. He performed an unreleased piece and gently said, "I once thought of calling this Little Prince, but I never found the courage." Then he offered no further explanation. That single sentence seemed to preserve the mystery and depth of a connection never named, a quiet bond between two souls who dared to remain themselves in a world that rarely made that easy. Los Angeles, a place where the two artists needed very few words, yet managed to hear one another with remarkable depth. No names, no labels, only a simple point of connection. Like all true creators, Prince and Rufus understood that some bonds are meant to remain legendary, existing beyond language and images, living on only in the imagination of those who listen. And perhaps, in Rufus's later music, as the sound drifts like mist, a faint shade of purple quietly appears, a gentle reminder of that afternoon in a Los Angeles studio in 2006, where two artists spoke almost nothing, yet truly understood everything. Next comes RuPaul Andre Charles. On one talk show, RuPaul once mentioned catching Prince's gaze from across the room, then quickly shifted the conversation, leaving the audience to wonder what had just slipped through. Prince, for his part, never spoke of RuPaul in any interview or public remark. That complete quiet almost suggested that some questions were simply not worth answering. What is striking is how much they seem to mirror one another, and yet it may have been that very similarity that kept a distance between them. RuPaul lived openly, embracing his truth, and became a powerful emblem of liberation, challenging the world to face what it had long considered forbidden. RuPaul lived openly and without apology, but Prince followed a very different path. Throughout his life, he allowed the world to wonder about his true identity. Was he attracted to men? How much of what people saw was authentic, and how much was carefully staged? Prince never offered answers, never corrected the rumors, choosing instead to wrap his private life in intentional mystery and let ambiguity become part of who he was. It is precisely that mystery and quiet that make their connection feel even more elusive, undefined, yet profoundly significant. Two extraordinary artists, moving through the intense and unforgiving world of music, chose to protect their unspoken truths from the public eye. And perhaps it is through that choice that they remain timeless figures, living on not only in records and memories, but in the hearts of fans and the enduring story of music itself. One was said to be the reflection, the other the silhouette. There were whispers that at that year's Met Gala, Prince's stylist quietly stopped him from walking in beside RuPaul, worried that cameras would freeze them together in a single frame. No hard evidence ever surfaced, yet several people from inside the industry later agreed on one thing. Prince was deeply wary of labels of any kind, especially those that tried to define who he was before he could define himself. Not because he rejected it, but because he feared being confined and misread, afraid of losing command over the image he had spent a lifetime shaping and defending. For Prince, that image was the last wall between himself and the outside world. It was more than caution. It was a quiet, almost sacred boundary that no one was permitted to cross. And so, while RuPaul chose to live openly, shattering every line of gender and social expectation, Prince chose deliberate distance, keeping his identity fluid and unreachable. No one could define him, and in that freedom, he learned how to endure. After many years of quiet, the story slowly surfaced again when a former member of RuPaul's team casually mentioned a brief memory on a podcast. It was only a small detail, yet enough to awaken the curiosity and unspoken longing that many still carry. According to this person, one night backstage at an event, RuPaul remained seated for a long while, his gaze fixed on the place where Prince had just vanished, as if he were listening for the final notes of a song that had ended but was still resonating somewhere deep inside his heart. Their greatest difference lay there. RuPaul accepted praise and ridicule alike, choosing openness as the price of freedom. Prince, though just as unconventional, chose mystery instead, revealing only what he wished the world to see. People asked if Prince disliked RuPaul, but perhaps the deeper question was whether he feared him because RuPaul was a mirror, honest and unfiltered. And maybe what Prince feared most was not any label, but facing himself in that reflection before he was ready. RuPaul never showed resentment or regret. Once, when asked about artists he had hoped to work with, he paused for a long moment before gently answering, "Prince, but I think some connections are too fragile to be pushed. Some connections are simply too delicate to be forced." It was a soft yet powerful admission, a glimpse into the unseen complexities and quiet vulnerabilities that shape the hidden world behind the spotlight. Such unspoken meetings happen more often than we realize, yet only rarely does a fleeting connection remain so deeply etched in memory. Perhaps it endures because it touches a tender truth, one that many queer people of color understand intimately: the difficult choice between being accepted and being authentic. RuPaul chose the demanding road of openness, while Prince moved along a path balanced between shadow and spotlight. Different in their choices, yet similar in their solitude, both became lone beacons, casting their light across the vast landscape of a restless city. No one knows whether Prince might have reached out to RuPaul if time had allowed, perhaps only to say something as simple as, "I see you." But the world leaves little space for what-ifs. What remains is an unfinished chapter, a single, unspoken glance, and a connection that was never given a voice. And recently, in a remix of an old track, RuPaul quietly wove in a gentle funk rhythm Prince's unmistakable fingerprint, like a subtle greeting sent across time, heard only by those who know how to listen. No one ever spoke of it directly, yet those who followed both artists with care seemed to understand. It felt like a farewell that arrived too late, an apology never spoken aloud, Prince's quiet way of sealing a chapter that had never been given a name. Among the countless people who claimed to know him, only a rare few truly etched themselves into the deepest places of his heart. Their bond was never public or sensational, but quietly lived in late-night studios and shared understanding. Jermaine's warm voice and Prince's electric brilliance created a harmony felt more than recorded, two kindred spirits in a world that rarely allowed such complexity. Then, as suddenly as it began, Jermaine faded from Prince's circle. Whether by pressure or choice, only fragments remained: unfinished songs, fading melodies, and the outline of a connection, and perhaps something more, forever suspended in time. That quiet restraint was part of his strength, a soft resistance in a world that demanded loud confessions. Jermaine's calm presence flowed beneath Prince's electric storm, and together they formed a striking contrast. One radiant, one inward, yet somehow complete. In those early Minneapolis years, their friendship became a refuge. Jermaine softened Prince's intensity, while Prince gave Jermaine the courage to grow. They never needed words. Their bond lived in silence and music. Only later did the world begin to see how deep that connection truly was. Jermaine's quiet confidence contrasted sharply with Prince's guarded and complex nature. Their meeting was more than chance, it was two identities in transition. Jermaine had already found inner certainty, while Prince was still wrestling with fame and personal boundaries. That difference created both chemistry and tension. Jermaine gave Prince a rare space to be himself, while Prince's intensity kept a careful distance. In those months in Minneapolis, their time together shaped them both. Jermaine softening Prince's music, Prince pushing Jermaine to be bolder. It was a brief, private chapter, known only to a few. Yes, that contrast cut deeply. Jermaine's gentle grace stood against Prince's intense need for control, creating both harmony and strain. One moved like a calming tide, the other like a burning storm. Their love for music drew them close, but their different ways of living kept the balance fragile. That quiet divide made their bond both powerful and delicate, a reminder that even the strongest connections are tested by the space between freedom and protection, honesty and fear. In a world that rarely allows complexity, Jermaine used music as a stage on which to reveal her truth, most clearly in the hit, "We Don't Have to Take Our Clothes Off," a confident declaration of emotional independence, separate from appearance or the demands of society. The song was not only a statement, but a quiet challenge to the forces that urge people to conform. Prince, too, explored desire, freedom, and the urge to cross boundaries, yet he approached those themes with a different discipline. His rebellion was carefully designed, every image shaped with intention, every gesture placed with precision. Where Jermaine allowed openness to lead the way, Prince chose control, ensuring that nothing about his story was ever left to chance. Within a matter of months, their closeness began to loosen for reasons no one ever fully understood. People in the studio later remembered a moment when Prince abruptly muted Jermaine's vocals during a session, offering no reason, no comment, no apology. On another day, Jermaine arrived with a new demo, quietly hoping for guidance or approval, but Prince simply rose from his chair and walked out of the room without a single word. Perhaps the music had touched something too close, or perhaps Prince heard a reflection of himself in the song and was not yet ready to face what it revealed. They never appeared side by side in interviews again after that. Jermaine rarely spoke of Prince, and when his name did surface, her voice always softened as if the memory came from a place touched by lingering sorrow. "Prince is one of the most brilliant and enigmatic artists I've ever known," she once said. In that single line lived both deep respect and quiet regret, the echo of a beautiful connection that, for all its intensity, was never meant to last. "I think he understood me," she once reflected, "but maybe he wasn't ready to face what I stood for." In that quiet confession lies the fragile heart of Jermaine's connection with Prince, a partial understanding, and a distance that neither of them ever fully bridged. Years later, an anonymous producer who had worked with both revealed that Jermaine once wrote an unreleased song titled "Invisible Man." Many believed it spoke of hidden love, but he insisted it was really about Prince himself, a figure of extraordinary brilliance, present in her life, yet forever just out of reach. As always, Prince offered no response. He neither confirmed nor denied anything, choosing complete silence, a choice many see as the most painful part of their story. No matter how beautiful a connection may have been, without acknowledgement, it can feel as though it never truly existed. Prince's lifelong habit of guarding his private world made even his deepest bonds seem as intangible as he was himself, distant, elusive, and forever just beyond reach. When Jermaine passed away, someone later wondered whether Prince had sent flowers or words of condolence, but no one could say for certain. There was no public gesture, no official record. Yet a source from Paisley Park quietly recalled that Prince dressed entirely in white that day and closed himself inside the studio from morning until night. He welcomed no visitors, made no recordings, spoke to no one. Instead, he played an old demo, on repeat, untitled, rough, with a fragile vocal line that those close to him recognized at once as Jermaine's. Perhaps that was how Prince chose to grieve, not with words or ceremony, but in silence, in memory, unseen by the world, yet deeply present all the same. Beneath the shine of pop and funk, Prince was more than a performer, he was a symbol of what could never be easily defined. The 5 quiet connections in his life reflected light and shadow, what was shown and what was carefully hidden. This is not a story of judgment, but a reminder that great talent often walks beside deep loneliness. The ties with George Michael, Sylvester, Rufus Wainwright, RuPaul, and Jermaine Stewart are more than rumors. They are gentle traces of real affection between people who dared to feel deeply, even when they could not love openly. And perhaps that is his truest legacy, not only the music he left behind, but the quiet proof that even the most mysterious souls long to be understood and loved. That relationship, though never spoken aloud, stands as a quiet witness to a difficult inner journey, one in which someone like Prince had to struggle with himself while trying to protect the bonds that mattered most in a world often uneasy with difference. It is this very uncertainty and layered mystery that make him so enduringly fascinating, leaving an imprint that lingers in the hearts of those who watched, listened, and learned to love him from a distance. And those are all the names that Prince was quietly linked to through unexpected, deeply private connections. While he never chose to make any of this public during his lifetime, these stories from behind the scenes reveal a profoundly human side of an artist who always lived beyond ordinary boundaries. Prince was not only a musical icon, he became a symbol of freedom in both love and identity. If you found this story meaningful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you won't miss our next intriguing journeys into music and history. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.